writers, you're listening to the Kobo ReWriting Life Podcast, where we highlight an episode from our backlist that will bring you insights and inspiration for growing your self-publishing business. I'm your host, Tara Kremen, Director of Kobo Writing Life. This week, I picked a recent live Q&A that we hosted with Maria from OverDrive. I thought this chat was really great, and Maria was a wealth of information about why libraries are such great resources for both authors and readers. And don't forget, you can distribute your books to OverDrive easily through your Kobo Writing Life account. So I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it informative. Hello, everybody. We're here live for another live KWL Q&A. This time, really excited to welcome Maria Fesz from OverDrive. Maria, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Laura and I are coming from Kobo HQ in Toronto today, so a little bit of a change up of where we are, but we're excited to chat and hope that everything technical works out okay. It'll be fine. We have Vanessa to help us on the back end, so we'll be all good. Let us know where you're coming in from in the comments. We would love to see where people are tuning in from. So Maria, you just mentioned you're in snowy Cleveland.
Yes, it snowed this morning for the first time. It wasn't for very long, but it's still like always, I don't know, I'm never expecting it. And then all of a sudden I woke up and I was like, oh, I guess this is what I'm going to drive in today. But it was not too bad.
And Laura and I are in the what is being renamed Toronto. Taylor Swift is taking over the city at the moment. So
it's not yet snowy, but I'm sure we're going to get snow soon.
Yeah, we're almost there. So if people aren't familiar, we're going to be chatting with Maria from OverDrive. If you have any questions, please drop them in throughout the chat and we'll try our best to get to them. And we'll just keep chatting. So Maria is a digital content librarian and team lead for OverDrive's North American Public Library Collection Development team. She works directly with in a number of ways, curating personalized collections and recommending lists, and assisting with content issues and collaborating on marketing initiatives. You also chat on the Professional Book Nerds podcast. I hope this is all kosher.
All true so far.
Okay, great. This one will be the challenge. And last but not least, is an accomplished musician.
Yes, yeah.
I did some research on you.
I love that. Oh my gosh, how fun.
A professional cellist.
I am, yeah. That's what I originally went to school for before I got my library school master's.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah. Well, I'm for sure going to ask you about that in a little bit. So with that in mind, I would love to know about you a little bit personally, just like what brought you to working with libraries, and can you tell us just a little bit about your career?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's like one of the cool things about libraries, or at least when I went to library school, I realized like you can come from like any background of study and then get a library degree. So I just always found that really cool that there's a lot of different ways that you can go with a library degree. And a lot of it sometimes is based on like what you did in undergrad, maybe, or something like that. But yeah, I always went to the library growing up. We were a library family. My mom still goes to the library all the time. We are very lucky in Ohio. We can have library cards anywhere in the state. So I have my Libby is stacked with like 5 library cards, and I just like pit them all against each other. For, lower wait time. But I was always a big reader and everything. And then after I worked professionally as a musician for a while and realized I didn't really like the teaching aspect of being a musician. So it's very hard to be a gigging musician. I was like, you know what? I still want to play cello. I still want to do this. But I had always had kind of librarianship in the back of my mind. I think even through undergrad, I did take a couple like extra English classes and things like that. I worked in the music library as like a part-time sort of thing. And so then I went back to library school after being in a working adult life for a while. I went to University of Pittsburgh, and I had a great experience there as far as like getting to branch out to all types of libraries. So I started working in academic libraries for a couple years, in community college libraries. And then I moved back to Ohio. I was living elsewhere, and made the move to public libraries. And then, collection development is something that a lot of librarians really love. Like a lot of people love programming or they love youth services. I just really loved collection development and figuring out, what's in the collection, what do I want to put in it, managing the collection, making sure you're making people happy. And that was getting centralized where I was working. And there was already somebody in that position. And I was like, man, this is my favorite part of my job is going away. And so I kind of put feelers out elsewhere. And one of those places was OverDrive, because I knew some people who worked here who had a really positive experience. That was 6 years ago. And I got the job and I have been busy and loved it ever since. So like Tara was saying, I work with a number of libraries as a digital content librarian. There's a whole team of us. There's a global team and a schools team, and then our North American Public Libraries team. So we do a lot of help with content related things, shopping, suggestions, content issues, sometimes just knowing like what's the best way to do something in OverDrive's like back end shopping. We're in it like all day, every day. So a lot of times we'll just give advice for how to use that and like what might be helpful to buy. And it's really enjoyable because even though I'm not working in libraries anymore, I still get to work with librarians. And then I also still get to hear what's coming out from publishers and like be familiar with the catalog and everything. So it's kind of like the best of all worlds.
We really understand that as book lovers ourselves. For any viewers who aren't familiar with OverDrive, can you tell us a little bit about OverDrive and its mission?
Yeah. So OverDrive has been around for a really long time now. It started with like legal books on like floppy disks. And the main mission is to, a world enlightened by reading. That's our like mission statement. And it's really making sure that librarians have a way to select, purchase, and merchandise and deliver these books to their patrons. So it's kind of like the whole ecosystem of digital lending. So our OverDrive marketplace catalog is where we have all the content, and based on, geographical rights and everything, you're looking at things that you can buy wherever your library is. And you can choose what to buy, sometimes for how long or how many copies. And then that gets pushed to our reading app, Libby. And we also help like merchandise those and like little carousels of titles that are available and things like that. And then users can check them out. I mean, that's kind of like that's the base of what we do, but it's the bread and butter of what we do also.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about you mentioned Libby, which it's sort of sometimes, I think of it as when people realize that Kobo is an anagram of the word book, that Libby is like a personification of a librarian. Her name is Libby.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that light bulb moment. Could you talk a little bit about like the difference between, we sometimes get that question, like what is Libby compared to what is OverDrive?
Yeah. And it's a tricky thing because I think the term OverDrive was around for so long, and we had the OverDrive app, and then we have the Libby app. So yeah, Libby, basically the way that I always think of it is like Libby by OverDrive, right? So OverDrive is kind of just the overarching company at this point. We don't really have a lot of branded stuff patron facing wise that says OverDrive anymore, except for the OverDrive website of a library. So Libby is our main patron reading app experience. So if you're on any mobile device, and it also works on a browser, libbyapp.com, which I use at work a lot because I don't know, I'm lazy, and apparently opening a new tab is easier than picking up my phone. I don't know. But that's kind of our main patron-facing app now. So ebooks, audiobooks, magazines, and comics is what we have, and they're all readable or listenable in Libby. I particularly like Libby's audiobook player. I think it is very easy to use and convenient and has a lot of customization. Yeah.
And one of the things I love too is that with Kobo, you can actually access OverDrive directly on your device, which is so easy.
Yes.
So I definitely take advantage of that a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we have like, the Kobo format, gets linked and everything. I covered as the digital content librarian for Canada libraries twice in the past 3 years. So I'm familiar with that as well. So it's great. Anytime we can do that, in the US, We can also add Kindle format to a title. So it's nice to have those options for people who are using those types of readers. And even if they're not, if that's just what they're used to using, even if they're using that app on an iPad or something, I tend to use the Libby app, but it's just like awesome to have these options because we just want more people reading. Like that's what it comes down to, right?
Yeah, like you said, the mission is a world enlightened by reading, which is it really aligns with what Kobo does. Yeah, like we really want to just focusing on the reading experience and getting the next book in that person's hand is exactly. That's our focus. Laurel dropped in some questions here, so I'm going to pop these up if that's okay with you.
Sure.
So we have, what would you say is the top priority for collection development for children's books?
I think one of the things that we've been seeing with children's books is that like lived experience type of author and subject matter, so that like you want, I feel like in the physical collection, you want kids to be able to come in and find a book that they can identify with. And so I think it's the same for digital. You want them to be able to, let's say they're in like a kid's page or something that, the library has connected to. You don't want them to see the same type of stuff every time they click on a carousel. So I think that's definitely something that is a top priority. I think another top priority is mental health. I've definitely seen a lot more juvenile mental health titles, like not just social emotional learning, which is obviously very important, but just like learning to like listen to your body and listen to your mind and like get, talk to people if you need to, and those kind of things, like strategies for that as well, I think is definitely a top priority. And I've seen a lot of content coming out like that.
Nice. Thank you. And then one more from Laurel. Does OverDrive have an editorial calendar for 2025?
We do. I have no involvement in that, but I do know that it exists. I think that it's probably all set to go, or at least will be in the next couple weeks, would be my guess.
Yeah, and we also on the Kobo Writing Life side, if you're interested in any like promotional opportunities with OverDrive, we have a separate mailing list just for libraries that I'm going to ask Vanessa to put in the chat, where you can sign up to learn about any sort of library promotions that are happening. And we work with the team and their editorial calendar to sort of combine the work on this.
Awesome.
Just a nice comment that somebody is enjoying the live. So love seeing that. And then Serena has a question here. Do you make acquisition recommendations? And just more generally, what are the top ways that librarians make OverDrive acquisition decisions? Which is a good question and one that we were going to get to.
Cool. Those are great questions. I would say for the first question, as far as like, do we make acquisition recommendations? We do. A lot of times, and by we, I mean like the digital content librarians will often put in what we call content requests. And a lot of times that's asking an existing publisher for a title to be available digitally that we currently do not have. So we do often do that. They mostly come from partners, our library partners that contact us. We have like an email for that specifically. But sometimes we'll come across it too. If we're making a list of like, let's say Eisner Award winners, and we don't have like 3 of the comics, we can be like, oh, well, this one is from X publisher and it looks like it's available digitally elsewhere. Let's see if we can request it. So we do that kind of.
Yeah, we get those requests from time to time too. So sometimes maybe as a KW author, you might get an email from us being like, this one book's not in OverDrive and they're really keen on it.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And we love being able to do that with existing publishers that we have a good relationship with, it because then we usually do hear back and we can get the title. And then, someone, at least one person who asked about that is going to buy it. But usually it ends up being more than that. So because I am always like, if there's one person who's interested, there's probably 1,000 people who are interested. And then, more generally, I would say the top ways that librarians make OverDrive acquisition decisions, a lot of it is patron demand, making sure hold lines don't get really long. I think a lot of patrons, especially if they're new to digital or in Libby, don't understand why there's a holds line. for a digital copy, but it's still just a copy, and it acts a lot like that one copy one user type physical book, just in a digital form. So I think there's definitely a lot of holds. They'll also kind of see what's trending in like the genre world in general, especially now with like book talk. Like, it doesn't really matter if a librarian doesn't want to buy a lot of romantasy, they're like gonna have to buy it. So
it's none of our choice anymore. It's just everywhere.
It is everywhere. Yeah,
here to stay.
Definitely a lot of that. And like, listen, I enjoy a good romantasy title, so I am of that readership as well. And then I think there's the local needs as well. Like, there's a lot of ways to go about making sure that you have like unique collections in OverDrive, whether that's, just making sure you have like a little bit of budget that you put towards that, making sure you know who your local authors are, or even, utilizing other lending models. So we have like a cost per circ lending model or something like that. And like just adding them that way so the interested people can check them out because they show as available, but you're not maybe spending as much money as you would buying like 4 copies of it. So I definitely think they take that into consideration as well, but they all have their own ways of making those decisions. But I would say that's a lot of what they're looking at.
Yeah, and just to add to you're saying the cost per circ and the one copy, one user. So when books are distributed through Kobo Writing Life, they set a library price, and both are included. So the librarian has the option to either take it for like the higher price for a one-time loan or for multiple loans, or for 10% of that price for a one-time loan, which can really help with discoverability if it's maybe an author that they're not as familiar with, but somebody has asked specifically. So it's just a great option where on the author side, they don't have to do anything. Both of those options are available.
Love that. Yeah. And I like that with that cost per circ, like basically pay-per-use type model, because it shows as available. And so it's like, oh, my library has all this stuff. It's awesome.
So the work that Laura and I do is like primarily with like self-published or indie authors and small publishers. So why do you think it's important for indies to distribute their books to libraries?
I think that one, and this kind of goes back to something I said earlier, at least I think. Sometimes I'm like, did I say that, or was I just thinking in my head? Talking about like the array of experiences and like voices that are in books. I think the more you can have, the better. So that's already one reason, is like if your title can resonate with even just one person, that can be really meaningful. So just that array of voices, I think is really great. And I think also it's a great way to kind of ensure that a library has the ability to have a deeper collection as well. So, they're all going to have the best sellers, and being able to personalize their collection more, I think that indie and self-published authors can really contribute to that. And there's just a lot of avid readers on these library apps, on Libby especially. We just see it like, it never went down after 2020. Let's just say that the readership keeps getting higher and higher. So it's also just like a really great place to gain readership.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what we were saying before about reaching readers wherever they are. Like, if you don't submit to libraries or opt your books into libraries, you're kind of missing that readership there. And it's definitely a big one. And
you're potentially missing your best recommender, which is a librarian.
Yes.
They're like, people trust librarians like no others for book recommendation.
It's true.
And for Kobo Writing Life authors who make it so easy to opt in, it's just like a switch in your dashboard and the library price. So there's really not a reason not to.
Yeah.
Especially if you're already publishing widely. I don't know why you wouldn't. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So continuing on the track about indies, what are the common misconceptions that indie authors have about getting their books into libraries, I guess?
I don't know. I don't really know if there are any, I guess maybe not misconceptions, but I think sometimes it's just like, unless you're going to the library all the time and using this, it's just like not something that naturally pops into your head. Oh, I should also include this, right? And so especially if you're publishing on like another platform that either like doesn't make that available or doesn't make that known, I think like it's not something that people just are going to think of. So I think just like being aware, like, hey, there's this whole other audience and marketplace that I can be selling to, I think is just something to be mindful of. I think some other things, and this, I don't know if this is, I'm sorry if this is like anticipating another question. I don't know if it's a misconception, but there are things that you can do to help your book be discoverable, like in marketplace, and or just like even if you have it, let's say in Kobo, and then you go to your local library and like, hey, I'd love for you to buy this book. You know, you wanted them to be able to find it easily. So using things like the proper BISAC codes, we use the BISG, BIS book industry. Yeah. Okay. I don't know why that acronym sounded weird for a second. We use those subjects. So like making sure that they really reflect like what your book is about, making sure you add more than one is always good. That sort of thing. That's how we inform like what subjects are attached to our books. So that's really important. Just like be aware of. And then also like if you do put up anything as pre-order, those also can go into marketplace. So something to think about, like even if you're like, oh, well, it's not for sale yet, or my file's not ready or whatever, that's something else that can be included as well. So just being mindful of like that kind of stuff, I think could really help.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think people don't realize about the pre-order piece as well, that your book's already up, and we don't have a time limitation with pre-orders. So you kind of set them as far ahead as you like, so you can know that you can just do that with the libraries as well.
Yeah.
So, Laurel got all the great questions today, so I'm going to put another one up. What are the best ways for indies to support libraries?
Oh man, I think just like the more you can talk about them, the better. And like if you're aware of any really good stuff that they're doing, or you know, a lot of times I'll like hear people say something about a library that's just like isn't true anymore, or is like a very outdated thing, and I'll just like correct them. I'm like, no, actually check this out. So I think just being that supporter in that way is really helpful. I think honestly, like a way to support libraries in the digital space is just being open to utilizing those different lending models and utilizing and really thinking about your pricing and making sure like, okay, like libraries are not for-profit companies. They are, you know, public organizations that have a certain amount of funding, and it is finite. And just like keeping that in the back of your head too, just like the flexibility, I think is what we've noticed that librarians really love as far as like supporting them digitally as well.
I definitely see when we're talking or like looking at library sales, you can see the like quarterly sort of fluxes as libraries get their budgets. So something to keep in mind as well. Just different time of year has been something to be conscious of. SK Randolph, I don't know if you'll have the answer to this as like not being library, not working directly with libraries all the time, but do you have any advice on how to approach a library if you're an author? And maybe this is maybe a bit too general, as each library has its own sort of unique cases for getting books, but would you encourage authors to go to their local libraries and like really tell them about their work?
Yeah. That people did that when I worked at the library. And I think like it's one thing to either have like, if you can have an excerpt, like even if you don't have a print copy, I think that's okay. But having an excerpt or being like, hey, like I live here and maybe like these are set here, or I live here and I use this library all the time. I mean, you know, there's never going to be a guarantee that they're going to buy every book that you've written, but they like to support their local authors. Another thing you could do is like kind of also ask if there's any like programs they could help with. Are they doing like a NaNoWriMo program, like maybe you can help with or come to, even just to like, you know, be there. I think sometimes that can be really helpful, or having a book talk or something like that. I feel like it's always like an extra way to be like, hey, I really want to support you. Can you also support me by buying my book?
Nice. And Serena has just said as well that NetGalley has been huge in helping her get visibilities with librarians. So that's a good tip too.
Yes.
And making use of a pre-order as well, right? So it's a double whammy.
Yeah. Yes, we do love NetGalley. I use that to read advanced copies, and then that gives librarians more to talk about. If somebody comes up and is like, oh, what's coming out that's good, or oh, I just read this, fun title or a compelling title on NetGalley. So they do a good job of making those available, I think.
And how does having a book in a library kind of impact an author's visibility and readership? Do you have any success stories of indies who've seen benefits from library distribution?
I don't have anything specific. I would love to actually run some numbers on that to see.
We've got tons of authors that are doing great.
Okay,
we can collab.
I'm glad. One person that I know has seen just really great, and I feel like she'd be okay with me saying this because she has talked about on a presentation with us before, but Grace Burrows loves libraries, and she puts everything in Marketplace, and it does really well. And I just know she's seen a really great turnout from that. She's really cool. Also, just it's a general statement.
Yeah, we love to hear about indies doing well in libraries. And what role would you say libraries play in kind of the overall book market, especially for new or maybe emerging authors?
I think that they play a really exposure type role. I think a lot of people will often, even if it's people who buy books a lot, they'll often use the library to be like, do I like this author enough to auto buy their books? I'm not going to auto buy somebody I've never read. You know what I mean? I don't actually own a lot of books. I know that's shocking, but
that is shocking.
I know. I do read a lot. I don't know. I just don't own books, but I think it's because I own too many musical instruments or something. I don't know. It's I don't have enough space in my house for both things. But I think exposure is a huge thing. And also for those people who, I don't know, I feel the library to me is so low pressure because you're not really expected. Nobody expects anything from you when you go into a library, and no one expects anything from you when you open the Libby app. No one's watching you do that. That's just, you can read whatever you want. No one's going to judge you. It's a digital checkout. So I think there's also this comfort of you might be reaching readers that don't read in other ways because that's how they feel the library. That's how the library supports them. So I think you can reach some people that do exclusively read library books because there's definitely those people.
Well, there's such an emotional connection to the idea of the library because I know we're talking just digital for the Kobo Writing Life side, but there's such a, libraries as a space have so many more purposes than just books, it's gathering space, it's an educational space, and befriending your best friend librarian to make sure that you get all the book recos and when Grace Burrows' books are coming out. Kyle here says that she's a big fan.
Yeah.
We love it.
And I think there's a lot of literature out there. I mean, I haven't checked it lately, but especially when I was in the community college space of library as the third place, for a lot of people. And I think it's one of the only places like that still where, again, nothing is expected of you when you enter. So, yeah.
Just to be quiet. That is the only thing.
Yeah, and not even super quiet. It's not that strict, but yes, please don't yell and
yeah, just not super loud, I guess.
I still just imagine shushing librarians, which is just such an old-fashioned image that
I like to say. Yeah, we like to say now that actually it's usually the librarians that get shushed. I have been shushed. Don't think that librarians shush people. I mean, they do have to sometimes, but librarians definitely get shushed just as much as they shush people.
Yes. Love that. So, well, I'd like to, can we go behind the scenes on the digital side a little bit? Because I know this sometimes comes up as a question from authors where because they don't get to see the process behind the scenes. So what does it look like for a librarian to go through the catalog and buy books and curate a collection?
Sure. So it works kind of like, I'm trying to think of like a good comparison, but like if you remember, maybe searching in like Gale or something in like high school or college or something, there's like an advanced search, or there's like a basic search bar, kind of like Google, whatever, that you can search in, and then the results come up. You can filter them by a lot of different things. So I love our advanced search. I think it's really great. You can filter by, do I have holds on this title? You can filter by subject. You can filter by audience level. You can filter by publication date. You can filter by price. There's so many filters. And all of those things, they can search through the catalog. Obviously, the catalog is very huge, because we have old things, pre-orders, new things, just so many books. So it's good to use the filters, because otherwise it takes a really long time for the search to load. And then they can put those titles in carts. That's the usual way to do it. Unless they're using cost per circ, then they just turn on that title in cost per circ instead. But most of the time they're adding those to carts, and they may have a budget in mind. A lot of them will say, I have this much a month to spend. And so they'll make a cart like that. They can edit carts. They can save them for later. If they accidentally delete them, we can recover them for them. So,
good to know.
yes, it's good. I never want someone to be like, oh my God, I worked so long on this cart, and I accidentally deleted the wrong cart because I forgot what I named it, all that stuff. And there are multiple people at the library that can have accounts. So if you have a youth selector, let's say, and an adult selector, they can both have their own accounts, and they can see each other's carts, but they can work on their own individual things and all that. And then when they're ready to purchase that, they will put that through. Those purchases go live in a matter of hours to the patron. So that's the really cool thing, is is that instant gratification, especially if you're filling holds or buying a bunch of new stuff, and then you're yes, so that kind of goes straight out to Libby in a couple hours, and people can discover things in Libby a lot of ways. They have a search as well, and filters and everything. But one thing that they can do that Tara was mentioning was curating these display lists. So you can also curate those based on subject, audience level, similar things. It has a similar advanced search, just in an area where you're only looking at your owned titles. So if people want to say okay, I want to make a curated list of cost per circ, indie self-published authors, and say available anytime or available now authors, things like that. They can do that by picking the lending model and the publishers, or they can pick title by title, and then they can publish that list, and it shows up on Libby. You can do multiple ones so people can scroll through and things like that. So that's kind of the life cycle of how it's used by librarians. And then, we have a lot of different lending models in Marketplace. And so some of them require maintenance, like metered access by time. So a title will expire after a year or two. Then the librarian would have to decide if they want to repurchase that. That is only one option. So, it's, I don't think one that you...
No, our others don't have to worry about that.
Great. Because it's a lot of extra worry if I'm doing something for librarians and for us if we're helping them. So, So usually if it's a one copy, one user like that, where they're owning it in perpetuity, or cost per circ, all they have to do is decide with the cost per circ, do I want to keep this as cost per circ, or do I want to just buy it? Depending on how popular it is, they might decide to do that. And then it lives on in their collection. So that's kind of cool. And they can go look up stats for it anytime, circulation, holds, that kind of thing.
Nice. Thank you. That's so really interesting. I've never gotten the end to end of the librarian's point of view on this. So I'll certainly find this helpful when working with authors. And I know on the KWL side, because I guess sometimes when people kind of just add their price and say yes and it's in, it can kind of be unclear. So they'll sometimes go to OverDrive and search and be like, but my book's not here. But that's not to say that it's not in the collection available to the libraries. It often just means that it hasn't yet been purchased.
Yes. And you can now see in Libby, for a while in Libby, you couldn't see things that weren't owned by the library, but were for sale. Now you can, if you click on like deep search, then other things will come up if you're not seeing your title. So that's a nice way to check, like, oh, it is in there. It's just not in the library collection I'm looking at, basically.
Right. And then to let authors know as well that if you're looking to see if you have got sales from libraries, if you download your sales report from within your Kobo Writing Life account, you'll actually see if you expand the title field. We're hoping to make this a little bit easier in the near future. But if you expand the title field, you'll actually see the specific library that's purchasing your books, and you'll be able to see them on your invoice, which is always sort of a neat fact because we're just biased to because Toronto has like one of the largest library systems.
Yeah, we love seeing Toronto show up.
So it's nice to see when Toronto's at the top.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that. Was something that they could see. That's really cool. I love that.
And it makes sense now that you're saying that you have multiple library cards in Ohio, because Ohio is always one of the top ones. And now it makes sense.
We have some very large systems that thankfully can buy a lot of these things. So that's great to hear. I love that. I'm very proud of Ohio libraries. Growing up as a Ohio library user.
Nice.
Yeah, we definitely see Ohio pop up a lot on the sales reports for sure. You mentioned kind of some of your tips for things that librarians can use to search. Do you have any tips for someone who's a Libby user, like a reader, not a librarian, and maybe some like aspects of the Libby app that are underused that you think everyone should know about?
I think so. The things I like that I use a lot in Libby and that I think are fun to use, I like to use the available now filter. Especially if I'm looking for something for a drive, or I'm just like, I know I want to read, but I just like didn't have anything like in my TBR that's either available or jumping out to me. And sometimes I'll just scroll through the available now. So I definitely feel like that filter is a great filter to use. The other thing that I have been utilizing more are like tags in Libby. So like if I know I want to read something, or like, ooh, that sounds interesting, but like I know I'm not going to have time to borrow it and like actually finish it right now. You can like tag something. You can make a shelf called like TBR, or like, to read soon, or I didn't finish this right now, but I want to check it out again, instead of putting it on hold and on hold and on hold. So I think that can be really useful. I know it's not really a search, but then I can go back to my TBR, and if I click on it, I can see what's available, because there's that status, like available to borrow or hold. So I like to use it that way, and kind of make my own list. So I think that's really a great tool to use. And then use up all your holds.
Laurel has another question about, I think this is what you're alluding to, for authors to create playlists on Libby, like favorite middle grade reads of 24.
So yeah, we make a lot of the lists you see that might look like that. As far as on the OverDrive side, we make those in Marketplace and then like push them. So like we'll have like a cumulative like best books of 2025 that people can use and things like that. So we do have a lot of like specific audience lists to like middle grade or YA and things like that. As far as like sending something on Libby, like to suggest to libraries, we don't have anything like that at the moment.
But I would say if you sign up for like our promotional emails for libraries, or just reach out to us, we can always see what we can do with our Connect at OverDrive to be like, here are authors that are interesting to us that you might be interested in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
We have, sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, you're good.
We have just a question here popping up about the promotion for OverDrive. How can authors get the email for OverDrive promotion? It should be in the comments there that Vanessa dropped, so you can sign up to receive those. And then SK Randolph has a question. How are the revisions to books dealt with? If there's a new edition, is it automatically offered to libraries? I know on our side, we would just push the latest update. Is that the same thing on the OverDrive side, Maria, if you're aware, that it would just be?
If you're updating like an existing like title, like record, and you're using the same, like, it kind of depends. There's a couple ways that we get revisions, like, if it's a pre-order and you haven't actually sent like the full source file yet, it will get pushed, like the new update will come through. If it's like an older title and you're making a new edition and it's like a different, like, I don't know how you do it at Kobo, but like a different title ID to like identify that title, then it would come as a new edition, like a separate record. Yeah. But they're not automatically offered. But if you have that thing checked in Kobo, it should go through.
Yeah. And I'd really kind of say you wouldn't really be making another edition without there being significant changes. You just don't want somebody to be disappointed and purchase the same thing and be like, oh, this is not different enough. So that would be my advice there.
Yeah. And usually if libraries are purchasing something, they're not going to purchase a new edition unless they need a bunch of additional copies. Like, they're going to keep the one that they have.
Right.
Just for budget's sake.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's talk about book trends a little bit. So we've already talked about our love for romantasy and how much that is taking over recently. Are there any other trends that you're seeing pop up?
Yeah, and one more fantasy trend that I think has just been awesome is like cozy fantasy. Mm-hmm. I just feel like that's been doing really well. Things like the Travis Baldree books, Legends and Lattes. And there's just been a ton more. I'm trying to think of one that the Spell Shop, I think that's kind of like cozy fantasy. I just read, what the heck did I mean, this one's more like fantasy romance, but like it was kind of like cozy-ish stakes, but I just read Sword Cross by Freya Marsky. And it's just like, it's so nice to have that feel good and you still get the fantasy elements of it. Like, the world building or like, unique and quirky characters, and a lot of inclusivity, but like the stakes aren't like this like intense like war of lands and like all kinds of stuff. So I think that that's like been a really nice thing for people who maybe are like, I don't know if I could deal with some of the stress of this right now. Like, I want this to be extra escapist maybe. I definitely feel like we've seen a lot of that and that it's been circulating well, and that they're really well written, which is just awesome to see.
Val has the same question as me. Cozy fantasy question mark. Because I like cozy mystery has a sort of like you're hitting the beats of a certain thing, but fantasy is so much more expansive. So how are they? I mean, I guess I have to read one to figure it out. But how are they combining these?
Yeah, I think it's more like I think that the term is different when applying it to fantasy a little bit. But yeah, it's definitely there are less. Like kind of earth-shattering consequences. Yeah. And instead the consequences are like, man, my coffee shop isn't getting enough business. Nobody knows what coffee is here. That's the Travis Baldree. Like that sort of thing. And like, that person is lonely and they make friends. Maybe there's some romance. Maybe there's romance implied. A lot of times though, it's not going to be like a full like romantic type fantasy book, but it's more just like friendships and like low stakes, but in a fantasy world. If that makes sense. So
Vanessa has just told me to picture a warm fire and an ogre serving me.
Pretty much exactly that.
While you hang with your elf friends. That's a great.
It just sounds so lovely. It's like a hug in a fantasy land.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I was going to say like similar to you, like very low stakes, like not a war necessarily, but kind of like mystical creatures existing in like a low stakes world.
Yeah. I feel like there's like probably some like fun little phone or video game I'm thinking of that would probably equate to this, but I don't play games like that. So I have no.
Okay, Vanessa, tell us in the comments what the game equivalent would be. Vanessa would know that for sure.
Is it like
she's probably furiously typing right now?
Okay, all right, great. Because I'm sorry, that's just not. I've played Mario Kart and that's it. So
I'm there with you.
Yeah,
Mario Kart, Mario Party, that's the extent of my gaming, to
100%.
Vanessa's disappointment.
But I do think whenever I look at the books that are, just staying on cozies for a second, the books that libraries seem to really respond well to are like cozy mysteries do so well too, I guess, because of like that, what you're saying about the warmth, that's the coziness that's there. Sorry, we're just getting a all cap Zelda.
Yes, I would say that Zelda is kind of cozy. I would agree with that. I know this because I've watched my husband play.
But do you know that the main character isn't Zelda?
I know. It's Princess Zelda is the Zelda.
I know.
Link.
Vanessa's just.
I didn't know. No, I didn't know this until like 5 years ago. I'm not going to lie.
Me neither. But yeah, the mysteries seem to do very well. Yes, Link is the name. Thank you.
It's the main person. Yeah.
Is there anything else that jumps to mind with libraries that, I mean, not to say that they're not purchasing other genres as well. We just sort of tend to pay attention to the biking trend.
And now for the absolute total opposite, I think horror is the other one that is really getting mainstream.
Fun.
And there's so many subgenres of horror that like you can literally find something for every single person.
Okay, but you guys, does cozy horror exist?
That's what Tara needs. I'm gonna call you out, Tara.
I am a wisp. I'm
yes.
pathetic. Like I'm scared of everything. So that's exactly what I would need.
I feel like it is out there. I did read one horror. I read House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher this year for my like scary book, and I don't usually do like hardcore horror. And this was more like, I mean, it was horror, but it was like more like creepy and not necessarily like, oh my God, I'm going to have like nightmares about this sort of thing. But I do think there's really like, there's like the horror that's more into fantasy world. Then there's the more like realistic, like there's a serial killer type horror, you know, and there's like everything in between. There's a lot more. I think there's a lot of really good gothic fiction coming out that's in that area. I just feel like horror is having a moment and people are reading it at any time. And I think that we have a couple really passionate horror readers on our team, and I'm glad because again, I just read it like randomly, and they're just like, there's always something good coming out. So,
nice. SK has another question asking: our libraries responded to illustrated ebooks for Kobo Color e-readers. So Maria, maybe you don't know the answers, but we launched 2 Kobo Color devices this year, where they're so beautiful. They're like, I wish I had one to hold up, but it's they're really, really great. And I think everyone that has used or seen them responds very well. And the covers look so good. And you have to consider like we were saying, maybe a cozy fantasy that has some sort of illustrated map of the coffee shop. Those look really good on the e-reader. I mean, a Zelda map also would look amazing, but the covers really pop. Like it just is a really great way of like engaging, and the readers have responded so well to them.
That's awesome.
So I can only imagine that librarians have the same positivity. I can only hope.
Yeah, I would think so.
So Serena likes my map idea, so that's great. Just sharing all my ideas for you guys to write, which is totally fine. So we're kind of coming on the end here. If there's any other questions, feel free to drop them in. And just curious, what's coming up with OverDrive? Is there anything? I mean, maybe some of this would be confidential that you can't share. But are there any upcoming initiatives or features that authors and readers can look out for and get excited about?
Yeah, I know that there's kind of like our, at least for the back end, our end goal, and I think it's fine to say this because I know it's an end goal eventually, but is to get cost per circ to be in the other part of the catalog. So basically shopping can take place in one like search instead of 2 different searches. And I think that'll just be helpful for librarians to more easily pick an option and make those shopping decisions. So we're really excited about that eventually. And there's been some like smaller back-end improvements to that. I think something in Libby that we're just trying to do more generally is like, and this is something that people may have noticed if they're using Libby, is making it more personalized for the particular library. So it can just feel like more of theirs instead of just like the Libby app for libraries in general. So I don't really know like exactly what to speak of in particular with that, but I just know that's kind of like a goal that's kind of been coming down the line there. But yeah, tags have been great in Libby. They've been around for a while, but I think just like having them be more powerful and interactive, I think has been really helpful as well. So yeah, we're always, always looking for more authors and more, selection for librarians for them to diversify their collection. So we just love it when there's new books coming in and that we can support that. So as long as our marketplace can keep supporting the massive amount of titles that we have then, and be able to bring in all kinds of publishers and authors and things like that, that's like really important to us. So
yeah, and like you said at the start, that like the growth has just continued. So excited to see how OverDrive continues to keep growing. I know you put out those results in January every year, which I always keep an eye on about like the amount of loans that happens, and it's amazing to see it just growing. And like coming back to like what you're saying, the mission at the beginning, like that we're both looking forward to like a world enlightened by reading, and our focus to get people reading the next book. Yeah. And I think there's just such synergy between the two companies. And so if the authors have any questions about putting your books in or anything like that, we're happy to answer. We can, if you send the team an email at writinglife@kobo.com. And happy to answer. Do you want to add anything, Laura? I feel like I'm chitter-chatting.
No, I think you covered everything. I feel like I learned so much about OverDrive and Libby that I didn't know already.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah. Oh, I have one thing I wanted to add, actually, if that's okay. We have a reader-focused blog now called Libby Life. That's like available to everyone. So if you want to sign up for that, we talk about like big books coming out, but also like more like thematic things. And some of them are written, some of the posts are written by people on our team. We're all former librarians of some degree. And then I know that my colleague is writing one on self-published and indie titles. Coming out in the next few months, I think. So cool. Very exciting. We were like, because I was talking to her, I was like, hey, is there anything you want me to mention on this? Because she's also a self-published author. And she was like, oh, you know what I should do? I should write a Libby Life blog post for that. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that because we do try to highlight when we can. We do have a couple lists for libraries to shop from that are, the popular self-published titles in Marketplace or featured and reviewed ones that we've just seen pop up and things like that. So we do try to get them into our lists as well and not just feature like top books that everybody's already heard about. I mean, those are in there too sometimes, of course, but but that's a fun thing if you want to just keep up with like Libby related stuff. But yeah, no, this has been great. I'm so glad I got to chat with you both, and I learned things about Kobo as well. And those new readers sound really nice.
Oh, they're so good. You should definitely check one out.
Yeah.
I know SK is saying that they have a series that has lots of colorful illustrations that are used in that. So what's been really fun is seeing how readers have responded to different color content, but also how authors have responded to different color content as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Maria, did you want to talk about the podcast at all?
Oh, yeah.
The Professional Book Nerds podcast. I haven't been on in a little while, but that's also something that we are often on. They'll do a lot of author interviews and sometimes just do kind of like a group chat about a certain genre or like favorite books of the past, quarter or month or something like that. So that's, I think, wherever you can get your podcasts usually. Do we have a Cozy Fantasy episode? I feel like there might be one. But yeah, I always enjoy going on there. And, it's nice because we do some webinars as well, like presenting to librarians about upcoming titles or our larger sales. And it's just nice, like, to be able to talk about books to people who are excited about them. I mean, like you all know. Yeah. So it's always great to do that. Sometimes I just talk about books, to people who are like, oh, okay, wow, you're like really talking a lot, about this. And you're like, oh yeah, right. You're not the audience for this. Sorry. Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's fun as well.
Nice. Well, we're going to have you back if you'll indulge us. We'd love to have you back again. This has been really great. And thanks so much for the questions throughout. So many good fans of libraries, both as authors and as readers, which I love to see. So fun. Thanks, you guys, so much. Thanks, Laura, for helping and co-hosting. And this has been wonderful. And we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
That's great.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Kobo ReWriting Life podcast. If you're enjoying this podcast, please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. And follow us on socials. Our meme game is so strong right now. We are at Kobo Writing Life on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Twitter. This episode was hosted by Tara Kremen and Laura Granger, with production by Terrence Abrahams. Editing is provided by Kelly Robotham, and our theme music is composed by Tearjerker. If you're ready to start your publishing journey, sign up today at kobo.com/writinglife. Until next time, happy writing!